3.
Was she interested in the Dhamma?
Not really. No, she wasn't. She came to see Ajahn twice, and Pitjit and several other the elderly took quite an interest in her, but she really was not that attuned to studying Dhamma. I tried to explain it to her, and it was just like going over her head. But she was a good lady. But it was just suddenly her heart just had stopped.
Heart stopped. Yeah.
And that's was for her. And luckily for us, the temple that we went to made very nice services last night, and so I'm relieved about that. It took a lot to set everything up with the temple and how to manage everything with the services. So anyway, we go tonight and tomorrow night as well. And then on the 13th, we have the cremation for my mother-in-law.
Cremation, yes.
Yeah. She lived an interesting life, and I think she, in her own way, she was a good person. She was not educated, really. She could read and write, of course, but she was educated to be the housewife from a noble family, something like that. So she could do food carving beautifully. That was her main thing. And then in her later years, the last 4 or 5 years, she was totally senile, almost like a vegetable. So it was her time, the conditions were there, and that's it.
Yes.
So I'm relieved for her, because to me, this is an interesting question. When a person is so totally senile, you kind of wonder what actually goes on in the mind of a senile person.
Yes.
A person who is basically not much more than a vegetable. I wonder what goes on in their minds, because they don't seem to recognize anyone or anything. And although they could recognize sound, if she heard my husband's voice, she could open her eyes, but not make any indication that she knew what he was saying or listened to it or anything else. Or if my son chanted for her, she would open her eyes, and you could see she was listening, but not that she was comprehending anything. We didn't know.
Yes.
So that was that, and that was a difficult. We're very lucky to have a very good woman taking care of her. Very excellent lady. Very, very lucky.
Yes.
So anyway, but so everything, everything is Dhamma, and that's it. That's it. Everything that happens every day for 24/7 is a lesson in Dhamma, Oh, I see you're opening a drink. I forgot to bring mine. Let me go get it.
Goedemorgen.
Goedemorgen. Ik heb je net een mail gestuurd.
Oh, weer je een terug?
Ik heb jou een mail gestuurd.
Hi, how are you, Karen?
Good, thank you. And how are you?
Okay, I'm feeling better. My mother-in-law passed away yesterday, and
Oh, sorry to
so
hear.
having the Buddhist services every night, and but it was a wonderful lesson in Dhamma. It really was.
Yeah.
And because for about 4 years she was totally senile, like a vegetable, and so it was, I think, a blessing for her to finally pass away. And it just very sudden. She was 103, and her heart just suddenly stopped. Whoop, that was it.
Wow. And she's from Thailand.
Yeah. This is
Yeah.
So we spent the whole day yesterday scrambling to arrange all the ceremonies and everything for her, and so I feel better today. But yesterday I was today I feel a lot better.
So much to organize and do.
Yeah, it is. And I was saying to Nina that every nanosecond of every life is Dhamma. Everything that happens in our daily life, all the stories that we have, everything related is Dhamma, 24/7.
สวัสดีค่ะ
สวัสดีค่ะอาจารย์
ที่ครับอาจารย์ครับ
กราบเท้าท่านอาจารย์ค่ะ
อาจารย์
Radhika, Ajahn, and everyone.
สวัสดีค่ะอาจารย์ and everyone
Please start.
Please start. I can say something.
Yes go ahead Nina
We had a Dutch evening on Buddhism, and Jyotika is here. We talked about no self, and there were very many questions. And Jyotika was wondering that if everything is by conditions, can't we do anything about the conditions? So her remark is very understandable, and it's useful to consider this more. And Ajahn had said, understanding and awareness have to be together, but there can be the development of understanding the truth. And that is the moment of letting go wrong understanding and ignorance, which condition clinging to the idea that reality is there all the time. Well, I think it's very good to consider this again. Jyotika was wondering, but the conditions cannot be done or anything done. But Ajahn said, well, there is the development of understanding of conditions. And I think still letting go, we have often heard the expression of letting go, wrong view, but the letting go, there may be some idea, very human, that is still I am letting go, even if we think there is no self and it is not a self, but still it may be an idea of I can do the letting go. So I feel it's very useful if Ajahn can elaborate more on this subject.
Shall we talk about that which is now appearing? To understand it, only that. Just like conversation, talking about anything, but we don't talk about other things, but we are going to talk about that which is now appearing. Because it appears, shall we talk about it? Learn to understand it as it is, as it is. Each word should be very careful, considering, otherwise it doesn't have any meaning at all. For example, that which is there now, appearing. Yes, it's there, but what is it? No understanding that it is there because it is conditioned to arise. It cannot just arise by itself. Never to be seeing without the eye and that which impinges on it and that which arises to experience it. And now it is just like that. Who makes it arise? Who condition it to arise? Nothing at all. Even the eye base or the eye, no one can make it arise at all. Just talk about, learn about, understanding about that which is now appearing, little by little, to understand what it's meant by no one and nothing. Because only seeing is conditioned to arise. No one make it arise at all. But it's there only so very short, because there are other things after, instantly, thinking about it, taking it for something all day, in all life, from eons and eons and eons ago. Not even a moment of thinking about it, just thinking is not there at all, because no one talk about it to be object of studying, learning to understand its truth as it's there by conditions, and we cannot do anything at all. Just arise to see, that's all. Who is seeing? No one. If it does not arise, can there be anyone seeing at this moment? Never at all. Just talk about the truth, that's all. And right understanding develops to understand, just to understand, not to try to make it this way or that way, or try to change it or try to understand it. But the truth is just the wise words about that which is now appearing, to be considered whether it's true or not. It's there by conditions, little by little. Don't have to do anything. We can talk about other things, but now we are talking about that which is now appearing. To understand it, because it can be understood. It's so real, it's there, to be studied, to be known as it is, as just, it's not moment of hearing or thinking. It sees. Is that right? That is a matter of thinking the truth, about the truth. What is the truth of that which sees?
Seeing.
See? But see is not there always. It's just a moment of seeing, not a moment of thinking. If we can understand what is meant by a moment, there must be a reality in that very moment, only one moment, only one reality. But there are so many conditions even in one moment. For example, seeing. See what is that? No understanding. So when there is a reality which arises to experience an object with ignorance, there is the idea of that seeing is I, because it's their experiences, no understanding the characteristic of that which just arise and experience and then gone forever, never to arise again. In samsara, not just only in this life or today, but never again. And is this true? We just talk about the truth, that's all. No one can try to understand it the other way or try to have more confidence of the truth, because it has to begin by talking about it, understanding it as it is. And this is what we use the word study Dhamma, because whatever is real is there. No one. To begin to understand the truth, little by little, that whatever is there is conditioned to arise. No one can make it arise. Just like now, hearing, talking, but they're seeing all the time. Who conditioned that? And what is the understanding of seeing and thinking and talking? And many, many realities are there. In a very, very short moment, each one arising and falling away. Because the succession of the arising and falling away is so very fast. That's why no understanding of that which arises and falls away. Because it's so very, very rapidly arising. So there is the idea of permanent moment or permanent thing, which is object of experience, like seeing a flower, just a flower. Can it be a flower? It is seen, only that. So how come, without shape and form, no understanding it as one thing, as flower? But before it can appear as flower, there must be moment of impinging on the eye base, not as the whole flower at all. So very tiny, because that which is the base, the eye sense, so very tiny. So that which impinges on it has to be just as tiny too, to condition the moment of very, very instant seeing and then gone. But not understanding the truth, even the sign of seeing, as that which now experiences, it sees, means it experiences that which is seen. No one there at all. Even it's so short words, but all about the truth that should be matter of studying to understanding the truth as it is. So it doesn't mean that we have to follow anyone, but the word of truth can be object or matter of studying, considering whether these words are true or not. No one. Where is the one, the self? It's seeing. And it's not there anymore. And it can be direct object of direct understanding when there is more understanding to let go what is there as the whole picture, the whole thing, like a person walking, standing, talking, flowers and worlds. But to understand the truth is to understand only one reality at a time, because they cannot mix with it cannot be mixed with other reality. Seeing does not know anything about anything at all. It just arises to see and then gone. Is this true? Just to consider the truth of that which appears all the time in one's life from life to life. That's all. And that is the way Panya begins to let go the wrong idea about that which appears as something. And when there is a reality which experiences, not understanding it, that it is only a reality which arises to experience without ignorance, it's the attachment and take it for I, because of ignorance, not understanding the way it is, arising and falling away by conditions, no matter when, eons and eons ago, today, tomorrow, and no matter how long the future is, no one can change the reality at all. Just understand the truth. As soon as there is hearing about anything, about the truth of it, it can be object of study, whether it's true or not. And right understanding only can understand what is right and what is not right. But wrong understanding take the right for the wrong, or the wrong for the right. Like now, no one at all. Is it true? Because seeing arises and falls away, thinking arises and falls away. Where were they now? Gone completely, absolutely, never to return in samsara. Just to understand only that, and understanding develops and performs its function of letting go wrong idea and clinging to that as I, or belong to me, or thing, or someone from life to life. But each life ends up when there are conditions to end this life. But there cannot be, but there must be seeing again, hearing again, birth again, as this life, as last life, and as next life to be. This is the truth of what is there now appearing, but no word to understand it if Buddha didn't teach from his enlightenment.
I think people in the beginning, but not only in the beginning, confuse thinking about realities and awareness. I used to be like that. I thought when I think about the reality, it is already awareness. And long ago, we were in the train to Bodh Gaya and we discussed Dhamma the whole night. And it was an eye-opener for me to see that thinking about realities is not awareness. So I think it's useful to discuss it more.
And I think that to understand anything clearer, we should talk about just one reality at a time. To understand that, when there is the understanding of that, there can be the understanding of other things, which is there, all the same. There are conditions for whatever arises, no matter now or tomorrow. Whatever arises is conditioned because no thought about that I will make this or that because it's there already, like thinking. See, it's there by condition. If thinking does not arise, if it's not conditioned to arise to think about that, can there be thinking? Just the thinking like that in that very moment? But whatever is there now is conditioned, so it appears because it arises and appear, but no understanding. See, for example, there is seeing all day, but what is the truth of seeing? Before seeing, there's no seeing. And then there is seeing, and then there's hearing. So where's the seeing? It's so true, but no thought about it at all. No one helped us or taught us to think about it. So we just keep on thinking about other thing else all day, and also thinking about the words, about the truth, just thinking, while the actual one, the reality, the real one is here and now, so very close. And without careful considering, there's no idea that we are talking about that which is here so close, which is now here, just to understand. When we talk about seeing, it has to be seeing this moment. When we talk about hearing, to learn that where is hearing? See, it's there, but where is it? See, no idea about where, because the characteristic of hearing arises and hears and then gone. And if there is no understanding about the characteristic of what is there as different realities, there must be the idea of something all the time because they appear same slide together.
And I like very much Ajahn remarks that one just needs to talk about the truth. It's not necessarily to think about what is the reality appearing now that I can be aware of or should be aware of, but just talking about the truths that the Buddha described in his teaching, whether these are specifically related to something that's been experienced now or not, I think is not important, but understanding more about the truth of the way things are, whether generally or specific to particular realities, is a condition and can be wise consideration in itself of a certain level. So I think, like Nina, one tends to want to think about the realities now and what they are and whether they are appearing and can be the object of awareness. But perhaps there can be just a general consideration about the truths of life also.
But what do you mean exactly about a general consideration?
Well, the Buddha's teaching covered many aspects, the realities that are appearing, the conditions, karma and vipaka, all sorts of things. So any aspect of the teaching can be usefully considered, reflected upon. So if one's reflection is, put it this way, if one's reflection is motivated by the idea that having more awareness now is what it's supposed to be, then perhaps it can be a hindrance if, as Ajahn said, just talk about the truth. That includes the truth of what is appearing now. We don't have to do anything. And those words I find very, very helpful. A good reminder.
I think the important point, and relates to the first point that you mentioned, that Jyotika had mentioned, is there has to be the forgetting about oneself. The less thinking about oneself, the better. So when there's the idea that I should be able to do something, or I should be able to affect or change the conditions, it's not the understanding of the truth. It's not the understanding of realities. It's the thinking about I and how I can have more awareness, or I can have more understanding. But the seeing now, no one can change it. No one can do anything about it because it's conditioned to be the way it is. Understanding, if it arises now, it's by its conditions, by the accumulation of understanding and from the reflecting wisely about the truths that have been heard. But it's not I who can make it arise, I who can do anything. And that clinging and that expectation leads to more and more difficulty and takes one further and further away from the understanding of the truth now. So I'd like to ask Jyotika, when you say, or Nina reported that you said, can we do anything about conditions? What is this we that could do anything?
Thank you, Sarah. It is very helpful to be here and to listen and to hear, and because a lot is happening for me. I see that the question, if we can do something for conditions or to change conditions, is a question of I. So there's a discovering all the time that I is here and I is there, while there is a thinking that it is not more there.
So it's always the fantasy world of I, that I should be able to do, I should do, or I could have more awareness, or I could somehow do something about conditions to make it arise. Even if there is thinking that by being here, I can have more awareness. It's still the fantasy. It's not.
Yeah, maybe, yes,
the reality of the moment.
What Jyotika says is so common. I think we all have this inclination.
But actually, it's not even we all. It's just different moments of conditioned thinking. So moments of thinking about I, and then moments of thinking about other things. But it's that habit is so strongly accumulated, like you say. And that's the way of the world. As the Buddha said, his teachings go against the way of the world. And this is what causes life after life in samsara, the clinging to the idea of I, This is the biggest hindrance to the path and the most dangerous kind of unwholesomeness. Not the strong anger, not strong clinging to sense objects, but the clinging to the idea of I, which is so deeply rooted.
Yeah.
The idea that I can control life, I can change it, I can change what's conditioned now. So that's why, as Ajahn was stressing, we have to come back to understanding and considering one reality at a time, like hearing now. Can anyone stop hearing now? Can anyone change what is heard now? Can anyone choose to only hear pleasant sounds and not to have any lobha afterwards? So understanding now that hearing arises by its own conditions. It arises when the sound is impinged on the ear sense, and then it hears and is gone instantly. This is the only way to gradually understand and eliminate the idea of I can do, or I can control, or I can change conditions.
The
So
words.
for me, the thing happens that I was asking myself, does it make sense to pay attention to developing paramis?
If there is no understanding now of seeing now or hearing now or any reality now, can there be the development of any paramis? Because the development of the paramis depends on the understanding of realities. For example, the parami of truth, it's the understanding of the reality of life now, the truth of life, that conditions the development of such a parami. And the same for the other paramis. Otherwise, it's the idea of I again. Okay, the understanding of realities isn't clear enough, so I will develop the paramis. But this is just the I developing more wrong understanding. It's not the development of paramis.
That is why Ajahn stresses all the time the letting go of wrong understanding. That is a very helpful expression, I think.
And without the letting go of wrong understanding, little bit, there cannot be the development of the paramis, little bit. So the paramis is actually developing with the letting go of the wrong idea of self, supporting the right understanding. So it has to come back to this moment. And what
so the only thing, the only thing what is real is asking what is there now in this moment.
Right, because there's only this moment. So thinking is real, doubt is real, seeing is real, clinging to self is real. They're just different dhammas that arise by conditions and fall away instantly. Nothing that we or anyone can do about them.
So all these study groups on metta, karuna, and meditations, if it does not have this foundation, it is in vain.
Then it's just metta for I wanting to have more metta and trying to have more metta, trying to have more good thoughts so that I have better accumulations. It's not the letting go of the idea of self, the letting go of clinging, and that clinging to oneself, clinging to I who has metta or compassion, is not seen for what it is.
And Jyotika, anybody can say those words, you know, metta, karuna, or develop metta, karuna, but how much understanding are there of those dhammas? Sometimes they're just words, and I'm not saying that people aren't sort of inverted commas well-meaning, but we've been very fortunate with Ajahn Sujin She helps us to understand what's real and helps us to cut through a lot of horrible misunderstandings that people have about Dhamma, about metta, about karuna, or about understanding, or about whatever. And it's so important to consider very, 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 very carefully what we hear, because anybody in robes or out of robes can say absolutely anything they like, anything they like. And just because they got robes on, that should not necessarily give them any credibility. It's always up to us, understanding is always up to us to consider very carefully what we hear. Is it in accordance with the truth? Or are they just kind of words, sort of an empty rhetoric? So when we say people are talking about this or that, I think it's so important to, and it's not always easy. It's not easy because often we haven't got a reference point to go to. And I heard Ajahn recently talking about it's going to depend upon a lot about our accumulations, whether or not we can resonate with the truth of what Ajahn and what the Buddha was speaking about. Otherwise, it's a matter of going backwards and forwards and not sure about this or not sure about that. But I would really just encourage you to continue listening to what Ajahn has to say. And perhaps I could ask this question, Ajahn. My question would be, it's probably been asked before, but I'll try and ask it in a different way. We hear people talking about metta or karuna or panya for that matter. How do we know that they're speaking the truth?
Because you see that there is no time at all before hearing the teachings to think about understanding the truth of whatever is there. We just take it so easy as this or that as we think. But just one word can be object of considering in order to understand the subtlety of each reality. For example, one at a time. What does it mean?
Yeah.
See, what does it mean? The truth is that at that very moment, when Panya understands just a reality, only one, can there be other realities as object, just like now? It means that there is no understanding of any particular reality at all. Just have the idea that they are all dhammas, they are conditioned, they are now appearing because of the arise and falls away. But that is all together as the whole, as something. Flower, plate, bed, room, bird, and so on. But actually, the world, the real world, is not like that at all. When we talk about just one reality, and Panya develops to understand each one, it means that at that moment, there's no thinking about other thing at all. And even thinking what is there is not known, because so many things in a day are so very, very fine and subtle. No thought about it at all. Take it for the whole all the time. But just one, even that word, to understand the wisdom, the great virtue of wisdom of the Buddha, to enlighten the truth of just one. What are there in one, see? But what appear in a moment, different. Because what appear can appear only one at a time. So now, how many times, how many moments? Because there are so many things around. But in truth, what is there appearing has to be just only one at a time. So what is the world? Not as we used to live at all. Much different, because Panya can understand that's clear, because only one appears as object. But now there can be the understanding of how much ignorance, not understanding anyone, just only one, clear enough at all. We just talk about in general, seeing is that which experiences, but it does not appear as only one. So the right understanding is not keen and clear and firm enough to let go. The idea of things around, even we don't speak out, but it's there. But the nature of it, the rapidity, the succession of that from moment to moment, how fast it is. Just thinking about that very, very tiny, which impinge on the eye base, because the cup of the whole one cannot impinge on it. But the eye base so very tiny, and that which impinge on it has to be so tiny too. In a moment, from moment to moment, build up to be such many things around right now. So begin to see how much ignorance, not understanding the truth, but begin to have more confidence of the truth, that the world appears only one at a time. Is it right or wrong? It's the beginning of having more confidence of the truth, firmer and firmer understanding of how much ignorance is there unknown. That's why Panya develops very little, but it's so true. It can understand what is right and what is not right, just one at a time. See, can there be object? If not, how can there be the understanding of one reality? And if there is not the moment of understanding that only one, can it be clear? Because there are many things together, appear together. No clear understanding of any one of them. Just understand one reality. And how come Panya knows that the truth is that in a moment there cannot be people and things and the whole world, but there must be just the absolute reality which can impinge on the bases like the eye base, ear base, and so on. Is it not true? So the truth is quite far apart from ignorance, because before this can appear, to let go the idea of self, which has been accumulated quite a long, long time, eons and eons, only some words cannot eliminate the idea of self. As long as our reality does not appear yet as a moment, in a moment, only one at a time, Panya cannot understand it as it is. We just talk about that which experiences, but sound is there, visible object is there. Where is that which experience different moment, different ones? See, and since reality arises and fall away so very rapidly, as Buddha taught about the details of the process from one moment to another moment, never the same at all by conditions, it can begin to understand that reality as it's so far from it really is. The world is dark, blind, because no understanding of the truth of only one at a time. But if the characteristic of that only one does not appear, how can there be the confidence of the truth? It's just like what Buddha taught from his enlightenment, and he showed the way to understand that as he taught one little by little from intellectual understanding. And Panya knows that now when only one object does not appear, it's impossible to understand that object as no self because of ignorance. The table is not I because it cannot experience anything, but only that which arises and experience, and ignorance, not understanding its nature, that it is conditioned to arise and see, but not understanding the seeing. That is the idea of seeing as I. Even the near or far rupa, all are just ideas about realities, about the truth of it, until it appears, show up, little by little, because of understanding is there. Just like what we used to talk about, hardness, see, it's there. But the idea is that it's something, but actually it's the nimitta of hardness, even it's not known as something like a thing, a hand or a table or whatever it is. That's why the world is just different from what it is. When there's understanding, it's different from moment of no understanding about the truth. But when there is the understanding from hearing, right understanding knows that it's not the direct understanding of one reality yet, but Buddha taught from his enlightenment of each one, which his great wisdom, experienced the truth quite uncomparable. See, that's why the understanding begin to understand the truth of the word that it's just talk about now, but even it does not appear as it is yet, because right understanding is not enough. It's only knowing about that which experiences, arises, and fall away, different from that which arises and does not experience anything. Begin to understand the truth of each one clear, firmer about no self. Otherwise, we just try to get rid of the self, but no understanding of the truth, which is so very deep, very subtle. But the truth is that what is now appearing, because the reality which experiences is conditioned to arise and falls away so very rapidly that it cannot be known. And the object which is experienced little by little, from moment to moment, condition the nimitta, the shape and form of something that can be known as what we take for flower or shoes or whatever. And what about the citta? It arises and falls away much more than the arising and falling away of rupa. So the clinging to that as self is so very, very strong, very sticky, that it cannot be taken away just by the self, trying so hard, no understanding of anything at all, but to know that it's quite how far to go, because the truth is the truth. Nobody can change the truth at all. The truth has to be the truth. And now we are talking about the truth, no matter who experiences it or not, but from his enlightenment, it can be known little by little, teaching the other to understand the truth of it, the absolute truth. Life is just that which is conditioned to arise to experience and to arise and cannot experience anything. Begin to understand what is said now as the truth of it. It's so very deep, very subtle. But the truth is that in a moment there must be the object, only one at a time, and the moment of experiences at a time too. And what it's meant by at a time, one at a time. And the truth is that it has to be just one at a time. That's why whatever appears, no matter what level of panya, that which arises and falls away so very rapidly. So what appears is just the nimitta of one reality. And from that nimitta of one thing, when they arise and fall together as shape and form, and together like I all the time, seeing, hearing, thinking all the time. To understand the truth, we don't have to try so hard to think about this and that to understand it's no I, but the truth of just one word, one at a time, one reality. And what appears is the nimitta of one reality before it can be shape and form of bird and house and things. Is this not true? It depends on considering the truth. And that is panya, no one at all. But panya has to develop on and on and on to let go the idea of self and doubt, which is also uppa nisya pachaya, or the very subtle kilesa, anusaya kilesa. See, each word can lead to more understanding of the truth as not me. Even that moment there is doubt, it shows up as a reality, as not me. But when there's no understanding, like see now, I see. So at that moment, I doubt. But actually, they are different realities by conditions. So they can be the beginning of understanding what is meant by anatta, no self at all, no one at all, and no thing. But there are different realities arising and falling away so rapidly that it cannot be known. So even Sotapanna cannot change the way. Sotapanna, Buddha, Sariputta sees people and things, but no doubt, no misunderstanding, no wrong understanding about that, because the truth of each one appear and show up through different stages of vipassana jnana. No one, just it's time to talk about the truth to understand, that's it. And Panya begins and develops little by little the way it is. Just to have more confidence of the truth, that the actual, the truth of it is not just like we think or what appears. Because it appeared to ignorance, no understanding of the succession of the way. It is conditioned to arise and fall away. As long as there are still conditions to arise, it has to arise because no one can stop conditions for its arising. And condition is not anyone at all. It is a characteristic of a reality. That's why what is true is just a reality. Only so short, never to arise again. Sunyata and anatta. And the understanding is no one, not me. But it begins to understand the meaning Buddha taught about this word. One moment, nimitta of the reality and nimitta of things. And it's now to begin to understand as much by conditions. If there's more time to hear, to read, to think about it, it can condition more understanding. Because the truth is at any time, no regret about the past with ignorance, because all gone, no one.
Yeah,
Before
Ajahn,
yes,
sorry, you
please.
keep going.
Yes.
Please.
Ajahn has a nimitta of reality and nimitta of things. And I would like to know the difference.
Is that seeing now? Seeing. Seeing is not that which is seen, but that which is taken from flower or shoes or house or window at all. Seeing, when it cannot appear just only one. The succession of the arising and falling away now of that which sees can be known by nimitta, not just one moment of seeing. So even the nimitta, from the nimitta of a reality to the nimitta of many realities arising so very rapidly, forming up the shape, the idea of shape and form and people and things. But what is the absolute truth? So just one reality at a time can bring more understanding to be aware directly with the understanding of only that which is the object of awareness. Right now, very normal, very natural by conditions. No preparation, no expectation. Otherwise, there cannot be the understanding of anatta and sunyata. So anatta and sunyata is not the word, but it's the reality. And the word represents the truth of it, anatta. Not under anyone's control, no one. Seeing now, cannot be changed to other thing, and it's gone.
Ajahn, and when we say the beginning of development of direct understanding, the object is the nimitta. We mean the nimitta of many realities, not just one reality, right?
Okay, is seeing one reality?
No.
Can seeing be hearing?
Oh yes, they're different. They're one reality different from the other.
See, but there is not only one one reality, right?
Right.
One seeing. So we are talking about seeing, and seeing is there appearing, but not one reality, one seeing at all, by way of this.
So it's the same as now. Now it's the nimitta of many moments of seeing that is the object of ignorance and attachment. So when an understanding also understands, it understands the nimitta of many moments of seeing.
That's why in Tipitaka, Rupa Nimitta, Vedana Nimitta, Sanya Nimitta, Sankhara Nimitta, Vijnana Nimitta. It means that all appear as nimitta of a reality or of the whole. Many things together like flower.
When you say the same as now, Sukhin, I'm not sure if you're referring to how the world appears or what is happening behind the scene, as it were.
I think I'm talking about what's happening behind the scene, such as that if there's attachment, it's not attachment to just one chitta or rupa, it's attachment to many chittas together. That attachment finally appears or becomes apparent.
Do we still think about that one, or what is that which arises falls away, never to arise again? But it conditions the next moment, and next moment, condition the next and next moment by Anuttara-Pacaya and Samanantara-Pacaya, the way it is. But there must be only one moment of seeing. And without that one moment of seeing, can there be something appear? Like seeing now?
Without the one moment, no.
That is the great wisdom of the Buddha. He knew much more than anyone can imagine. So kind to teach the others to have understanding. Otherwise, samsara is so very dark, blind. Never see the truth of what is there now. Can anyone imagine the moment when only one reality appears? What is meant by only one, but only one nimitta?
Ajahn, I was just thinking that there wouldn't even be the idea of many moments if there was no teachings to talk about one moment, because there's no idea about reality, the difference between reality and concept. So without what the teachings on one Dhamma, each Dhamma, one arising at a time, there wouldn't be any level of understanding at all.
Mm-hmm. This is the way to understand the truth little by little until it's so firm, until it shows up as it is, only to the highly developed panya, because it's strong, it's so keen enough to let go the other thing. For now, see, there's no letting go of seeing and thinking, liking, and the shape and form of that which appears at all. So how can there be right understanding of a characteristic which appears as only one at a time? Because they comes together. Long story about it. But if we cut off just only one, how come it is the moment of letting go the idea of the next? For example, at this moment of hardness appearing, not the moment of understanding it yet, but when it's time, no other thing at all. Only that, see, no other thing like now at all. Only that which is there, that panya, understand it with awareness. And no doubt about what awareness is. We have heard the word awareness, but if it doesn't show up, or if there's no conditions for its arising, how can it's there? But when it's there with understanding, there must be understanding. Otherwise, it cannot be right awareness or direct awareness at all. And when it's just one beginning from now, not clear yet, but the characteristic of understanding or awareness is there. So very, very short, very, very weak, not strong enough yet. But the difference is there. While we are talking right now, the development of panya, right understanding of the reality which appears, which has begun before and develop on and on, it can be a moment of understanding that which now appearing suddenly, unexpectedly, no doubt about it, see. And that is just the beginning of understanding the difference between what we use the word and explain about awareness, direct awareness, intellectual or directly, and so on, because it's there, show up as it is, by conditions. So one knows that without conditions for that to arise, it's impossible. No matter who tries so hard in the forest, sitting for a long time, impossible. Because it's just the panya, which letting go, the attention, the idea of self on such and such object, enough, unexpectedly when it will be that very moment. And it means that the understanding of anatta becomes firmer, more confidence. And who can have such great confidence? It has to be a moment of enlightenment, but it has to begin from this moment to understand the truth of what it's meant by world, a world, not the big whole world, but just a world that arises and falls away. Without that, there is no world. From moment to moment, one reality, each one is different. Otherwise, there must be the idea of something when they are together. So now, nimitta of seeing, nimitta of hearing, everything, because a moment, a reality is not experienced with right understanding. And when it appears, it has to be nimitta. Why? Because that which arises and experience show up. What about sampatichana, santirana, and so on? Can it appear? Impossible. That's why what can be known is only that which appears. But we talk about the condition from moment to moment to have more confidence of the truth that actually no one can make anything to arise and it cannot be anyone at all. And that is the meaning of Dhamma. What is real is conditioned to arise and appear, and arising and falling away, never to return at all, to have less clinging to the idea of self. Otherwise, without such understanding, how can it let go? The accumulation of selves so great, so much, enormously, from life to life, years and years ago. When there is the understanding of the way to develop understanding, to understand each word, one word at a time, it let go. That idea of trying to know this, to make it arise, and to have more conditions for its arising, that is not letting go. Attachment is there. Very, very crafty. The second noble truth. And when it's not known, it cannot experience that which has no condition to arise anymore. Nibbana. Kilesa, Nibbana. That's why we respect so great about the wisdom of the Buddha. Otherwise, how come to just think about that and begin to understand the truth little by little? No way at all. Only the kindness of the enlightenment which share the truth with the other, with great kindness, compassion, because knowing that without him it's impossible for anyone to have just even the idea of whatever is now appearing as no self. It's gone completely. So just study just one word carefully and understand it deeper and deeper, penetrate the truth that it is here and now.
And Jyotika, I'd like to ask you, if someone says that they can develop more metta, that a self can have more metta, or that they can do more good deeds, or that understanding can develop from meditation or following a practice. Is it true? Are they speaking the truth? Is it correct?
And I think it is helpful for people, but it is not the truth, I think.
Because
but they live more calm, or there is a development of calmness and good behavior, but it is not wisdom, I think.
And what is calmness?
That they are not reacting immediately and very emotional and very
You and I,
greedy.
but Jyotika, you and I know that there are some people who are, just because they are, inverted commas, seem to be calm at a particular moment in time, but that might be just their accumulations to be quiet. And I think you would know that people can be quiet with a lot of akusala at times.
Yes.
Yes, sometimes. Yeah, and I'm sure you realize that. So I think we can easily be, it's important to understand what is meant by, Sarah has spoken about calmness there, but just kusala generally. What is kusala? What is truly skillful at a particular moment in time? And because we have accumulated a lot of ignorance, there's going to be a lot of akusala, mostly. So we can, at a rough guess, we can say that people mostly akusala, in their life. And often people talk about being calm as if it's one long moment of calmness, but that is highly unlikely unless you're in jhana or some other it's very unlike. So we have to, I think it's important to understand what really calmness is. And perhaps I'd like to ask you, Thanajan, on that point there, what do you think when people talk about calmness cup, what do you think they really mean when they say that they feel calm? What do you think that they is really going on for them?
What about now, Jyotika? Is there calmness now at this moment?
There was thinking at this moment. I was thinking. In fact, I was thinking that I am a bit scared to say what I think.
So at the moment of being a little bit scared or a little bit apprehensive, is there calmness at that moment?
No, there is no calmness.
Or at the moment of wishing to have more metta or trying to have more metta or feeling very peaceful in the quiet place, is it calmness?
Yeah, what you understand with it, but it is more peaceful. It is, it's a good feel. Yeah, people feel better and can act better, can live better.
So I think
and
that,
it's very, very, very different things to be with the Dhamma, I think. And in this, I think it is very high quality here.
I understand what you're saying. And
because I cannot
yes,
think about any way where I can talk like this, what is here,
yes,
with people I meet and have in groups. And yeah,
because usually in a day,
it's a big difference.
Usually we take the pleasant feeling and the attachment, like when we are sitting in the sunshine or having a pleasant walk or lying on the bed, and there's pleasant feeling and we feel so peaceful, we take it for calm. But actually, most of the time, what is taken for calm is attachment. But without any understanding, it's impossible to know. It's impossible to know anything. And the same with metta, when someone feels friendly or happy to be with people, or they're sitting quietly thinking about others in a good way, they take it for being metta. But what about now? It comes back to now. Is one genuinely concerned for the other's welfare? Is there kindness at this moment? Or is it just clinging to oneself, wishing to have more kindness or more goodness? So without any understanding, akusala is always being taken for kusala. And it seems that when someone is following their meditation practice, and it seems that there is more calmness and wisdom. But if it's just for oneself, it's not the letting go of the idea of I who is calm, I who has metta, I who is developing understanding. So that's why it comes back to this moment. And like you say, it's not easy to talk about the Dhamma with different people according to their accumulation and their understanding, because the clinging to self is so strong. People like to have their own practices and their own development of what they think is calmness. So no one is interested in giving up the idea of self from the beginning. But the development of understanding, bhavana, cannot develop without very careful consideration and wise reflection on one word like calmness at a time. So calmness now can only arise with wholesome moments, moments of generosity, moments of kindness, moments of understanding, at moments of just feeling pleasant and relaxed. There isn't any kusala chitta at those moments because it's just clinging to one's pleasant feeling. So calmness can only arise at the wholesome moments.
Is it really possible to see this tiniest moment of impinging, to experience it?
I think, like Anina said, there's always confusion between awareness and thinking. But without the wise reflection, without thinking about the truth of what the different realities are, like beginning to reflect about what the nature of calmness is, then understanding cannot be developed, because there will always be clinging to one's own way of thinking and the idea that I can do more good or I can have more awareness. So like awareness, we learn that sati is quite different from the ordinary, usual meaning of awareness. Like Nina mentioned, that in the beginning she thought that when there is thinking about this and that it's awareness. But we learn that awareness, sati, is very specific and again can only arise with wholesome moments of consciousness. So just beginning to be more and more familiar with the nature of what realities are, and more and more familiar with the understanding that each reality is conditioned, not I or anyone who can do anything. It's the way that gradually understanding seeps through and begins to develop. And then when someone talks about their practice of having more metta or their practice of meditation to have understanding, it's very apparent at the beginning whether it's true or not. No need to think about it.
And Jyotika, you just asked a moment ago about impingement. There must be impingement or contact at this point in time. So there are always conditions in a way for development of understanding.
And the aim is not to see the tiny moments of impingement. The Buddha's teaching is about developing an understanding of what appears at the present moment. When we hear about all the intricacies of Dhammas and the sense door process and the thinking and so forth, there may be a tendency to think, well, that means that there needs to be awareness and understanding of all these details, but that's not correct.
I didn't say that, Jonathan. I didn't say that.
No, I'm not saying you said anything. I'm just following on from making the point, picking up on a point that Jyotika mentioned
earlier on, referring to that any moment that what I was perhaps referring to is that any time that you were saying just a moment ago, excuse me, that when there can be reflection on Dhamma, you mentioned this point earlier on this evening, can be valuable and can be a condition for the development of understanding. That's what I was referring to.
Yes, I wasn't commenting on anything that you had said. I was picking up on something Jyotika had said earlier.
About the tiniest particle to see.
If we're looking for tiny particles or trying to catch this moment of calm or that moment, then it's I again going off in the wrong path, not the natural development of understanding. So it's not a matter of trying to find it or trying to catch it or looking for any particle. So the understanding has to develop very naturally.
And we may think that people who don't react, who are calm in their behavior, their general personality, they're placid by nature and so forth, we may think that this is more wholesome than the person who is more emotional and reacts to things. But that's not necessarily the case. And in any event, the kusala can be developed, of course, from time to time, but the highest level of kusala is the awareness and understanding of what is appearing now. And it is only that understanding which eventually can gradually eradicate the agusala tendencies. Agusala tendencies cannot be reduced by behavioral changes or by unnaturally not reacting contrary to one's own nature. So it can be a dangerous kind of an unproductive, rather, way of thinking, to think that one's behavior needs to change.
Jyotika, is it true that there is seeing now which just arises by conditions, not by I doing anything?
I think so.
And at the moment of reflecting about the nature of seeing now, just that Dhamma which experiences, not I that sees, not I that does anything, at that moment of reflecting wisely, there is calmness at that moment, not I trying to be calm or I being glad to be calm, but at that moment of wise reflecting about Dhamma, it is calm. And then the next moment of feeling agitated or worried, fearful of something, then no calmness at all. So calm, like fear or any other reality, it just arises when there are conditions for a moment and then gone instantly. Not I who can make calmness arise, not I who can make it last longer. And no matter it's calm or fearful at this moment, they're just dhammas that can be understood as dhammas. It's not my calm and it's not my fear. Like seeing, they just arise when there are conditions and gone immediately. Not of any significance or consequence at all, because completely gone. And this is the meaning of anatta and sunyata, which Ajahn was referring to. Just gone immediately, nothing to cling on to.
There is some understanding, I think, but not enough to talk about it.
It doesn't matter, just considering and listening and beginning to reflect wisely.
Yeah.
It's a condition that slowly one becomes more and more used to the idea that it is just seeing which sees now and then gone immediately. No one can change it. No one can make it anything different. It's just the reality. And so it doesn't matter what anyone else says, because there's more and more confidence that the truth is that there are just different realities which are anatta. And this is what the Buddha taught.
Most significant discovery was in the last days, and also a question if it is true. The difference between understanding and accepting.
When there is understanding, it is seeing now which sees, not anyone. Is there accepting at that moment?
Yeah, maybe, but I the following, accepting is following, I think, after understanding.
What is accepting?
Well, I discovered that I thought I have been training with accepting things like as they are coming, not fighting it, just accepting.
Is it I that I'm accepting, or is it a reality at that moment?
Yeah, also what became clear was that it is accepting is doing is I think.
So then it's different from the detachment that develops with understanding, because when there's understanding, there is
understanding is happening
from the idea of I, no idea that I am accepting or I am doing anything. So there can be moments of wise reflection and understanding and calmness at those moments. And then so quickly the idea that I am doing something or I am accepting different reality.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, it's in the same sort of category as not reacting. It's an idea of behaving in a certain way, or thinking in a certain way, or having certain kind of mental states that should be or shouldn't be arising. So again, it's not a matter of changing the way we are, or because mental states are conditioned and all realities are conditioned, but of beginning to appreciate more and more that what we take for the world at the present moment is just different realities. And some of them are appearing and can be known to some degree, and others are not appearing, so they can't be known.
And Jyotika, these different concepts like acceptance or even understanding, they can be just that, just ideas, just words, but they may not really bear much resemblance to what's truly kusala or what's truly skillful. And that's...
Yeah.
Forgetting all about oneself is the best thing. Forgetting about being more accepting or trying to be more calm or trying to have more metta or having more understanding or knowing when there is awareness, because the I gets in the way all the time. So the understanding of realities is the opposite to I being a certain way.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you all for thinking with me for this morning. But it feels I have to withdraw for a while.
Your questions are helpful for everyone, Jyotika.
Yeah.
And Nina, anything more about what you were saying about how you used to think about thinking and awareness, or anything else on that topic?
Well, I think for many people, but for beginners, but not only for beginners, it's so easy to confuse, because at the Dutch evening, third Satipatthana was explained very carefully, all realities concerned and all conditions. But I wasn't sure that people would understand that there is a difference between thinking about all these things, like all the teachers were saying or telling, or this moment now. There is a difference. I missed what Ajahn always said, this moment now, and a very good reminder that it is the present moment. I missed that one because it was very carefully all the different realities, but not this moment now. And maybe Ajahn can elaborate a little more about this.
About this moment? Or about what? Or about calm? Or about what? Just one word at a time.
Yes,
to understand better and clearer.
All the different realities implied in the third Satipatthana were explained. But then I said, I missed the stress on what about this moment now? And it must be difficult. I understand that because it takes time to appreciate this.
Because we heard many, many words, but what about the understanding of each one as it is? For example, if there is no understanding of what is now enough, there cannot be Satipatthana. See, use the word. But what is sati and what is patthana, and when does it arise? See, it's uncontrollable. But to understand little by little about different moments, what are there in a moment? For example, when we talk about just a moment ago, see, about calm, can calm, is what we call calm is real? See, is that understanding enough to know it, to let go it as I, having calmness, or I'm calm? See, it's only the idea about that which is not clearly understood more and more to let go the wrong understanding of that which is conditioned to take it for self because of not enough understanding. So each word should be considered very, very carefully to understand its truth as it is, no matter what word we use. Is it real? Is it a reality? Calm, calmness. See, not enough understanding yet, but expect to have it arise at such and such time, or think about it, it's there, but no understanding of the truth of anything at that moment yet. So if there's no understanding of a reality right now, can there be the understanding of calm? It's a reality. And is it there now? See, so in order to understand the truth of reality, there should be more understanding of each word as not self, as different from other reality, only a reality different from other reality, one reality only at a time. So shall we talk about calm or sati or patthana to understand it better, clearer? Is what we say calm a reality?
I think we take for calm what is not really calm according to the Buddha's teaching, because with each kusala chitta there is calm, but it is really difficult to know exactly when the chitta is kusala and when there is some clinging and already akusala, because they are so short and follow so closely.
So from the very beginning, that is the understanding of there are so many different realities, and calmness is a reality, one characteristic, right? It experiences an object. And what condition calmness at that very moment? At what level? Different level too. So as much as we learn from the book to understand the truth that is so true or not, it is a reality. It arises with wholesome citta. See, and even now, no understanding about wholesome citta. Even when citta appears, no understanding whether it is wholesome or unwholesome to think about. But at that moment, the characteristic which is wholesome or unwholesome is there to be directly experienced, to be known. No doubt about it, no word about it. Like seeing, no word. When there is the understanding of seeing, we don't have to think that it is vipaka or it has how many cetasikas or it arises and falls away. The truth is that Panya directly understand the truth when it opens up, show up as it is, no one and no thing and no world. It's only that which experiences. That's why no matter we heard about what word about reality, there can be the beginning of intellectual understanding that what is it? Is it real? And how can there be the understanding of it, even it doesn't show up? But the characteristic of a reality which is calm, away from akusala. Because at any moment, when akusala is not there, there must be conditions for citta to arise. When it's not unwholesome, cetasikas or factors, mental factors for that very moment of citta, the other realities which is wholesome arise together at that very moment to condition a moment of wholesome, no matter it is kusala or kusala vipaka or kriya citta for arahata. See, this is to understand more about no one and no self, how very complicated it is conditioned from moment to moment, unknown. Only the right understanding of Buddha directly experience the truth, enlighten the truth, can know the truth of each one. And he taught the truth of it to be understood to the moment of experiencing directly the truth, just one at a time. And at that moment, no thought about calm or anything at all, but no doubt about that which appears as it is without any word at all. But before that, there has to be right understanding of actually each reality is different and calm is our reality. But who knows? We just take that which is calm as calm because not enough considering about the truth that what is calm is the moment when no akusala arising together with it at all. But there are many different wholesome realities arising together as the factors for a moment of wholesome citta, different ones, and what appears can be known, and that which does not appear cannot be known at all. That's why we have some idea of calm. It has to be moment without any akusala cetasika factors arising together with citta, the experiencing at that very moment. That's all. See, but when it does not show up, how can there be the understanding of that as that we have heard, but when it's there, no word, because its characteristics show up. Like you haven't seen that person before, and you know a lot about his personality, his shape and form and so on, so that when he's there, there can be the understanding of, oh, that is what we have heard about before. So, like calm, see, it's the moment when there's no akusala citta, no doubt, no ignorance, no attachment. See, right now, is it calm at moment of seeing beautiful things, delicious food? Even that is not known. So we learn to understand the no self, no one, to understand more about each different characteristic can condition the letting go the idea of self very secretly, unknowingly, that reality, Sankhara-Dhamma, works its own way from moment to moment. So calm, as much as we can know, is that it cannot arise with akusala citta. But no understanding about the difference between kusala citta and akusala citta, even right now. They are gone, arising and falling away. As much as we can know about it, when there's no understanding, there is ignorance. And when there is ignorance, there can be attachment or aversion and other unwholesome realities arising together with it. That's all. It's not calm. But if there is no understanding of the reality we are talking about, appearing just as one characteristic as the object, how can there be the moment to know whether it's calm or not? No one can change the object. It can be any kind of citta, because seeing is one, and liking or disliking is not the seeing. So whether that is calm or not calm cannot be known, because there is the moment of understanding the seeing or that which appears. And calm can be known when it appears, but it's there. So there is the idea of calm as long as it does not show up yet. But when it shows up, no word about it, because it's not that which the chief of experiencing. It's not the feeling which lacks it, but it's a characteristic which show up when it's time to be the object of panya. That's why we just know that when we talk about calmness, it's not just like we say when one is alone, but at moment when there's no akusala. And who knows what moment is wholesome and unwholesome right now. So it has to be object only one at a time. And there is no doubt when it appears to doubt about that reality. But what about the other which does not show up yet? That's why even doubt can be conditioned to doubt about that which does not appear. Until panya develops enough.
In general, we may know when we are concerned with other people and like to help, that there is calm, but it is intermingled with moments of tiredness when you are explaining Dhamma and you feel a little tired. So in detail, it's really difficult to know the difference.
As long as the characteristic of that which experience does not show up, there must be doubt about it. Or dhammas, the reality which experiences the object, but different function, different quality, different characteristic. All are there, but only that which appears can be known. No doubt about that.
So it can only be known if it appears. It can't be known by trying to ascertain what dhammas are kusala and which is the kusala, which is the agusala aspect of the present moment.
And as we know, the attachment, the asava comes in so quickly, instantly, completely unknown.
Good to be reminded of
even
that.
now. Yes. And on your comment about when people talk about the Satipatthana Sutta and they may use all the correct terms and the Pali definitions and be able to talk about all the details. But if there's no understanding about realities now as anatta, it's just what Ajahn would refer to as delirious thinking, just talking about details and terms and Pali expressions, but no understanding at all about the reality now, just taking it for being understanding and kusala and pariyatti, but it's not pariyatti because it's not actual understanding at all about Dhamma as anatta from the beginning.
As I said, when one doesn't know yet the characteristic of that which experiences. But that is a difficult point. Maybe Ajahn can elaborate a little on that. As long as one doesn't know the characteristic which experiences.
Okay, if there's no understanding of the truth, the characteristic of that which is now appearing, can there be the understanding when we say satipatthana? Impossible. Because what is sati? It's not the citta which experience. It's not the sanya which remembers. It's not the feeling. But what is sati? Without understanding where is sati directly of that object, how come to be conditioned for the arising of satipatthana? Without understanding from the very beginning and more letting go, they cannot be conditioned for satipatthana at all. Because it has to arise with panya to understand directly of that which is the object because of sati is aware of. By conditions, not knowing beforehand what would be the object of sati, not just trying to concentrate on breath or whatever is there. But it is just like now, who knows what would be the next moment? What is the object of next moment? cannot be known at all. So all shows up the truth of anattanness. It's there by condition. While one is thinking about it, for no condition for sati patthana to arise to understand that very moment. But even while one thinking about it, when there are conditions for the arising of sati, it's there, different from moment of thinking. So the truth is the truth about no one, only conditioned realities arising and fall away as its proper conditions to be such and such. No one can change the conditions for that reality to arise to be only that. So when we talk about satipatthana, it's not to the beginner or anyone who hasn't heard about the truth at all. It's wrong, no understanding. But when we know that satipatthana is right understanding, develops from understanding the Buddha's word of the truth of what appearing now. So there can be the understanding. It's not yet the direct awareness, understanding of that which is now appearing. And when there's no understanding, how there be condition to be aware of that object? No condition like now, see? Usually in a day, more moments or less moment of awareness, though especially satipatthana, with right understanding of the truth of that as it is, beginning to know that it's there. We don't imagine, we don't have to think about it because it's already there to be known very, very shortly and it's gone. But the arising and falling away of that which is so true does not appear yet because not enough understanding to let go the clinging to other object which is there. So it cannot appear as only one object. But when there's more letting go, the clinging, desire, attachment to the object which appears from moment to moment, there can be a moment of awareness of a reality by conditions, unknowingly. When will it be? But as long as there are conditions for its arising, it has to arise. But when there's no condition for its arising, no one can make it arise. This is the way to let go, the subtle way of the development of the path, the fourth noble truth. So natural and so letting go, little by little, because of understanding of the truth. Otherwise, how can there be the understanding of hardness, sound, hearing, thinking, liking, disliking? Impossible. So satipatthana is not the subject for anyone to just know, to understand what does it mean, satipatthana, but to understand the truth. What is the object and what experience that? Without panya, right understanding, can it be that level of sati which is aware with right understanding? Not alone, but with understanding. And without sati, right understanding cannot understand that. That's why it is the only reality which develop the understanding. That is sati. So that is satipatthana. It's that object which can condition right understanding clearer, better. Many people would like to hear about satipatthana, but they don't mind to understand whatever is there. And that is not the teachings of the enlightenment. All depends on panya only. So panya is the best of all conditioned realities. No matter in what world, Deva, Brahma, panya is the best of all because it can understand the truth, which is so very deep, very short, from moment to moment. So calm is a reality, wholesome cetasika arising with each wholesome citta, no matter vipaka, kusala, or vikriya for arahata. But without understanding, no understanding the characteristic of calm, it's the I who thinks that that is calm. Actually, it's not calm because citta at that moment is not kusala. Even at moment of kusala, without panya, and when calm does not show up, appear as object, there cannot be the understanding of calmness, but there can be understanding of what is there which appears. It can be seeing or thinking or whatever by conditions. And that is satipatthana. No one can make it arise. No one can select the object to be known or aware of, or by conditions, leading more to more confidence of anatta. And the respect of the truth.
Yes, and when someone thinks that they are developing satipatthana or they would like to have satipatthana arising, it shows there's no understanding of the realities which experience the namas or those realities which are experienced, because it's all the story about I. So the understanding has to begin with the basics. Like you mentioned, Nina, there has to be the understanding of seeing or hearing or thinking or attachment, the realities which can experience, not I, and those realities that don't experience anything, the rupas, such as the visible object that's seen or the sound that's heard. Because while there's the idea of I practicing or I following satipatthana, it's useless to read and study and learn about all the details. So that's why the understanding has to come back to this moment and the understanding of those dhammas that can experience and those which don't experience anything as just passing dhammas, not self at all. There's not much time. Has anyone else got anything they would like to ask Ajahn or bring up? Maeve or Wilhelm or Alan or anyone, Alberto, anyone else?
The truth, the truth is that without understanding, that cannot be satipatthana at all. Because patthana is the object which awareness is aware of and panya understand it. Beginning to develop the nature of that as not self. So when anyone would like to talk about satipatthana or to do or to have satipatthana more or think that one is developing satipatthana, that should be the question, what is the understanding about that? Sati and patthana. When there is the understanding of seeing right now directly, the seeing is a patthana for sati, for panya to understand it. But when there's no understanding, how can one understand satipatthana?
Ajahn, the reality of letting go is not Panya can let go, but it also, Panya also knows, is there a reality which is more, which is the function of letting go of the kusala, of the self, of the idea of people and things, and can you talk about letting go and the reality that lets go? Thank you.
At moment of understanding, is there any ignorance of that at that very moment? At moment of understanding reality, can there be ignorance about that as before?
No, cannot.
So when
No.
it's less panya, letting go, ignorance, attachment, so very, very little unknown, like holding the knife handle until it wears away, little by little. When you hold it the first time, nothing happened at all. How long? When it appears as it's worn out, very little, not much, and then more and more, little by little. Without understanding what can let go, wrong understanding and attachment and ignorance, it's there. But when there is understanding, there is less ignorance because of the understanding of that, letting go. At that very moment of understanding, so any moment when panya arises, it lets go. Its function is to let go of the ignorance.
And another way of looking at that is that the reason why there's clinging is to Dhammas, to the world, is that because Dhammas are not seen as they truly are. But when there's a moment of panya, then the Dhamma is seen as transitory, as unsatisfactory and uncontrollable. And so that is a condition for there to be less clinging or a degree of letting go.
Yeah, thank you, Ajahn. Thank you.
See you next Friday, right? Sawadee.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ajahn. Yes, just to remind anyone who came in a bit late, next week, no